Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry I'm a little late with this video. Usually my upload schedule is supposed to be every 2 weeks on Sunday, but for those of you that don't know, I am a full-time university student. I'm studying psychology, and so sometimes I just have periods where I have a lot of assignments or papers to write, and I also started writing my bachelor thesis just now, or more so researching for it. So there is a lot going on and there's a lot to do, so sometimes my upload schedule gets a bit wonky, but I still want to make videos for you guys. So if in the future I don't adhere to my own upload schedule, or if you see me on other days than Sunday, then just know that I'm trying my best, and I'm sorry in advance already. And also for this week is a little bit chaotic for me, but I still wanted to make a video, so this is just going to be a very chill video. So grab a tea if you want to, or a coffee, and let's just chat. So what I wanted to talk about today is just self-care, because I think during the pandemic a lot of us have started thinking about a self-care routine if we haven't already done so before, and there's a lot of content out there on how to take care of yourself in these times when you're stuck at home, especially if you're in full isolation and you're not seeing anyone. And I think it's a really, really important topic. What I wanted to talk about was not how to do self-care or anything like that. I wanted to talk about why, in my opinion, self-care doesn't always make you feel good and what to do about it, essentially. The reason I want to talk about this is because I think a lot of us know this phenomenon where we have the 10-step skincare routine, and we bought the plans, and we bought a journal and a nice pen that glides perfectly on our pristine white paper, and we're doing the workouts, we're doing yoga, we're meditating, and we still feel like shit because our brain is not delivering the feel-good chemicals that we ordered by doing these things. And when you feel like that, it feels kind of hopeless. It feels like shit because your brain starts thinking that no matter what you do, you're never gonna feel better, ever. And that you're just not able to feel good, essentially. And that's a huge trap to fall into, and to me, it's one of the shittiest feelings out there. Because where we want to be in the end is to feel empowered, to feel good, to feel fulfilled, to know that we are able to make ourselves feel good when we need to, essentially. So I wanted to talk about how to bridge this gap between feeling absolutely hopeless because the work that you're doing isn't quote-unquote paying off, and actually feeling good because of the self-care routines that you are building up. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was a change in mindset that is very much necessary. I think for me, when I started out actually paying attention to how I'm taking care of myself and building up a self-care routine that was intentional and conscious, what I was doing was that I wasn't actually doing this as a routine. I was using self-care as like a band-aid that came on at like the last minute. It was something that was supposed to fix me when my life was already in shambles. Something that I used when everything was already pretty much down the dumpster, if you understand what I mean. So it was more like a band-aid on a gunshot wound. And obviously that's not gonna work. A 10-step skincare routine wasn't going to fix either my depression nor my anxiety. So what I wanted to kind of get at with this was to say that self-care is supposed to be a marathon, and it is supposed to be part of a bigger healing journey. What I mean by that is that self-care only works, and you'll only get the fruits of your labor if you have it as a routine, meaning you do it daily, weekly, whatever your shtick is. And if you don't do it on a daily basis, you're not going to see any results, because what you're essentially telling yourself is, I'm only going to pay attention to you and take care of you when you're already doing unwell. And when you're happy, I'm not going to care, essentially. That's kind of what you're teaching yourself if you're not doing this as a routine. And that obviously is something that doesn't feel good. And self-care is supposed to make you feel better, so that's exactly the opposite of what you need. And the second thing is, self-care is supposed to be part of your entire healing journey, and your healing journey and feeling better consists of multiple modalities. It consists of the stuff that keeps you afloat, which is your self-care routine, and the stuff that actually pulls you out of the water, which is deeper work, like going to therapy, doing shadow work, actually working through your trauma. Self-care is supposed to be something that gives you the energy and the drive and motivation and inspiration to actually do the deeper work. It is not the deeper work. It is something that keeps you afloat, but it's not the thing that drags you out of the water. And what drags you out of the water will be different for every single one of us, but for a lot of us, it might be therapy and finding a good therapist, or it might be doing just deeper work on our own, whatever that means. For some of us, it could also be a spiritual journey that we do. And that deeper work isn't always feel-good stuff. And to have the motivation and to actually want to do the stuff that doesn't always feel good and that's hard work, we need to balance it with stuff that is easier on us, with stuff that fills our cup, and with stuff that makes us feel good over the long haul, which is taking care of ourselves with, for example, taking care of plants or journaling or meditating or whatever else it is that you have in your self-care routine. The second point I wanted to make was to meet your actual needs. I think a lot of times when we get into self-care and we start researching things that we could do to better take care of ourselves, we tend to fall into this very stereotyped routine, which is like, I don't know, working out, meditating, and reading, and doing face masks on a Sunday and a bubble bath or something like that. Or maybe your brand of self-care is very much like gruesome workouts and ice baths or something like that. I don't know. But we tend to just take on other people's self-care routines and take on their ideas without actually thinking about if we want to do these things, if those are actually inherently things that bring us joy. We just think that they are supposed to bring us joy. And we also don't think about what type of needs those activities are fulfilling, essentially. So what we would need is to not force ourselves to do self-care acts that we don't actually want to do. If you're not into painting, you're not going to force yourself to get into painting just because you know it enhances your creativity and makes you slow down or something, and that's loving to yourself. So find something that actually fulfills you, find something that fits to you specifically, and it might take some time to figure out what that is, but I'm sure you will find something. And maybe that self-care routine of yours will only have one activity, but it's one activity that fully fulfills you. It doesn't need to be 10 steps in a 1-hour morning routine. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be something that fills your cup and something that you will actually wake up and want to do, something that inspires you to get up out of bed, essentially, and something that even when you feel like you don't want to do anything, it's that one thing that you can still get yourself to do. And it won't always give you joy, and it won't always fill your cup up to the brim, but it is something that over the long haul does bring you joy. So we need a certain long-term thinking in this approach. And we also need to figure out what the need is. So my need, for example, for doing self-care is to slow myself down and to bring myself into the present moment and to do softer activities, because a lot of my lifestyle is very much achievement-based and going fast and going hard. So when I do something for myself to make myself feel good, it's supposed to be something that reminds me to be softer and more present. So if I'm supposed to fulfill that need, I, for example, then go outside in nature and walk without music in my ears or anything like that. And I try to connect to animals, and I try to meditate and journal by hand, because those are all things that slow me down, essentially. So figure out what the need is and how to meet it in a softer approach. And the third thing I wanted to talk about is another mindset shift, essentially. And a question we should all ask ourselves to kind of get behind this point is to ask ourselves, am I doing self-care because I want to get away from myself and get away from who I am? Or am I doing self-care because I want to show up for myself and I want to actually love myself and take care of myself? Am I doing self-love to get closer to myself or away from myself? And those are two very different attitudes. Showing up for yourself, no matter who you are and who you are not, no matter how you feel, no matter how you don't feel, no matter what you did and didn't do today, that's actual self-care, and that is unconditional self-care and self-love, and that is the type of mindset that we should be going into self-care with. If I'm doing self-care purely to get away from how I'm feeling, or purely to get away from responsibilities, or to get away from feeling like I didn't achieve anything today, those are all activities that feel like you're pushing yourself away. So every single time you're doing a self-care activity, ask yourself, does this feel like I am pulling myself closer? Or does it feel like I am harshly pushing myself away in some sort of way? And those two things will start to feel very differently. And if you do self-care with the right motivation, your body will recognize, oh, this is a self-love activity, and it will automatically feel a little better than if you were doing this as a self-punishment activity, or because you have to, or for whatever else other reason you could be doing it. I think your body and your heart, your mind, they can tell when you're doing something that you're not doing out of loving yourself, And in the end, I think it kind of sends the message to yourself that you're not lovable in some sort of way. So if you're sending yourself the message that you're not lovable, you can't recharge. Self-care can't be something that fulfills you if it's just showing you more of, I don't like you, essentially. Now, this is not to say that this is easy or that you're supposed to figure out how to do that right away, or that it won't happen, that you're just doing self-care because you're trying to escape the world. Those are all valid reasons, like escaping the world and escaping yourself sometimes is just necessary. The question is just, the majority of the time, are you doing self-care to show yourself that you're lovable, or are you doing it to show yourself that you still need to improve to be lovable? So essentially, what do you need so that self-care actually fills you up and makes you feel better? You need to figure out what are your needs and actually follow through on meeting those needs. And that's something you will do with your self-care routine and also outside of your self-care routine. You also need to personalize your routine, figure out what actually works for you, and constantly update your routine, because what you need and what brings joy to you can change all the time, and it will change with age and with the change of the seasons. My self-care routine changes depending on the weather outside even. So things like that can be very flexible and fluid. So make up a catalog of activities maybe, or a catalog of things you like to be surrounded with, and choose from those depending on the day or the week or the month. The third thing is to get help, be it therapy, be it some sort of trauma specialist, be it a spiritual advisor, a guru, whatever else. But if you're really never feeling well and no matter what you do, you can't seem to feel better, you need to ask for help, and it is absolutely valid and awesome to ask for help. And with that help, you can do deeper work. You do not have to do any of this alone. Remember that self-care is what keeps you afloat, and deeper work is what pulls you out of the water. And sometimes to pull yourself out of the water, you just need some helping hands. The fourth thing is to make it a habit, obviously. So try to have self-care implemented into your daily routine, or your weekly routine if you can't manage a daily one. And also ask yourself, how are you taking care of yourself? How are you treating yourself outside of your routine? Maybe you're one of those people where the self-care routine is something that is very specific to your mornings or specific to your evenings. And then ask yourself, do I need to... Oh, there's a squirrel. There's two squirrels, actually. Cute. Sorry. Ask yourself, how am I treating myself? How is my life going outside of my self-care routine? Am I hanging out with the right people for me? Am I doing the right job for me? Is that job actually something I want to do? I know that sometimes there's difficulties with switching that, so be kind to yourself, be compassionate, be understanding, but understand that the bigger context of your life matters just as much as your self-care routine, and you won't be able to completely fix your life if the rest of your life is not being worked on and all you're doing is a skincare routine at the end of the night. And the very last thing I wanted to say was understand that self-care and self-love are very rebellious acts to do in a world that is so focused on constant comparison and constant perfectionism. So don't compare your brand of self-care and self-love to someone else's brand, and do it for yourself. Self-care won't solve all your problems, so don't do it out of the motivation to fix yourself or out of the motivation to become more perfect or solve all your problems. Do it because loving yourself should be your baseline in life, regardless of what's happening or who you are or which goals you have achieved or how you're feeling. Self-love should be the baseline in your life. So do it because of that. Do it because it should be a given and because you deserve love and care no matter what the rest of your life looks like. So yeah, if you have any tips, if you have any activities that really bring you joy, if you want to share what your self-care routine is, please do so down below in the comments. I would love to read through those and respond, and we can help each other out if there's anything you still want to share. And yeah, like I said, my upload schedule can be a little bit wonky, but if everything goes well, I'll see you in 2 weeks on Sunday, and I hope you're all well. Bye bye.